There now is a rule by the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What it says now is that medical debt is now not to be used in calculating your credit score. When you don't have the ability to report them to the credit agency, there is no burden on them to pay the bill. Like, if you know it's not going to hit your credit, Kevin, aren't you just going to tell them to, hey, okay, nice talking to you, I'm out?
You could take advantage of it that way. Absolutely.
If a patient seems a little shady and suddenly knows the consumer laws regarding credit scores, then the reason why we have so much documentation and so much administrative burden is because of this one goblin of a patient who's going to sue or try to get away with stuff. And we are back with another episode of Chew on This. K-Dog, what's up?
Teresa Duncan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's a little cold here in Colorado today. I'm battling off the snow and all that fun stuff, so I'm glad to be warmed by your spirit.
Oh my goodness, cut it out, because you just came back from Mexico, so your spirit's been warmed for quite a while. I'm the one who needs a warm spirit. You're all like, I'm back from Mexico, my brain is reset. Like, you are ready to tackle the new year, my friend.
I'm basically detoxing today is what it boils down to. So,
Mexico does that to people, I hear.
It does, so.
All right, well, you've been on the road a lot. Yeah. And when you came to me and said, my article today takes us out of the U.S., I was like, again? Like, you just got back to the U.S.
I've got the passport out already, so why not, right? So the International Dental Show, we've talked about that a few times here in Cologne, Germany. In late March, I'll be going over for that. Cannot wait. And then the lovely bride and I will be going to the Netherlands for the first time right after that, taking a little vacation time, see the tulips and all that good stuff.
Oh, are the tulips in bloom at that time?
Dana she's an outdoor girl. She's a garden girl, and the Tulip Festival will be going on while we're there. And she is over the moon excited that she'll
That's going to be so cool.
Yeah. So
are you going to get her the wooden shoes? Because aren't they known for their wooden shoes?
Only if I see her doing some tap dancing or clogging or whatever, you got to earn it. I mean, come on, you absolutely do. So,
I would like to see the wooden shoes. I hear that they're very, fetching. So.
Well, perhaps there may be something in store for you when I get home. You can't ever tell.
Perhaps.
Maybe one will say chew and the other say on this. And then you can just wear it around. It would be fantastic. So
that's right. We need merch. That's what we need. We haven't even gone into the merch yet.
Folks, if you're looking for your specialized chew on this clogs, yes, we're,
Well, and before we dive into your Netherlands story, shout out to our YouTube listeners, slowly going up in that. So if you're listening to this, drop us a comment, let us know where you're listening from. That's kind of fun to hear. And what kind of merch you'd like to see, because we're not going to get the merch. I'm just saying we're not even there yet. But if there were merch, what would you like to see? Perhaps maybe some buggy glasses with chew on this on them, or
come on,
a goblet, like a crunk cup, like we were talking about.
The GOT crunk cup. I'm telling you, that would be fantastic.
All right, so what you got?
Right, so speaking of Netherlands, that's where we're going today. So jump in the Chew on This jet with us over to the Netherlands, where, Teresa, there's trouble. I hate to tell you this, but there is trouble in the Netherlands. It's not all tulips and windmills and fun, okay? What? Because this article that we will link to in the show notes, I'm assuming it's the Netherlands Times, the NL Times. The headline is, People Pushing Dentists to Yank Out Healthy Teeth Due to High Costs of Dental Care.
Oh.
So that's a problem in and of itself.
Wow.
And what the article goes on to say is that there was a time dental care was cut from the basic insurance that Netherlanders have in 2006. It was just whacked out of there. And now they're like, maybe we shouldn't have done that because our people are going through some really bad trauma with their oral health, and they're not able to get in to see a dentist, or if they are, they're not able to afford it. So there has become a movement in the country now that it is so expensive to go to the dentist to have any kind of cavity filled, to have any kind of implant done, whatever it might be. People are like, you know what? Just take them all out. Just take them all out because using dentures is much cheaper.
It's so sad. It's heartbreaking. That's the decision tree that people are faced with.
You know, their minister of healthcare over there, and I'm just going to read this one line. She emphasized that it is important for people not to leave their teeth in poor condition, as this can cause other health problems, such as cardiovascular diseases. I love the fact that they get the oral systemic link and they know that it's important. And yet, right now, there's not a solution because obviously the expense of adding dental insurance back in is something that the country isn't willing to do at the moment. And the people aren't willing to pay for it on their own. So it's really a tough scenario, it sounds like, in the Netherlands. So actually, in all seriousness, when I go over there, I want to be asking about this. I'm very curious to see just how big a problem this is.
Well, you got to do an interview. That way you can write off the Netherlands part for business expense, of course.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, totally.
This will be a Dr. Bicuspid exclusive, so be watching for it. Absolutely.
Dr. Bicuspid on the road. I like it. Well, but you raise a good point, though. Her giving that reasoning of, it's going to cause cardio issues and all the other issues, So that's good to say, but you're right. So what's the solution? Is the solution then what is the solution? If there's no availability and there's no funds, then actually she makes a bad case, because if that's the situation, then we do need to take out the teeth to get rid of the bacteria. I don't know if that's her intended consequence.
Yeah, I don't think it was either. And here's a great quote from her. You ready for this? It is all very annoying for people. It hurts a lot. That's an in-depth quote right there.
Yeah, it hurts a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Tooth pain does hurt a lot.
And I think you and I have talked that there are some places in my old home state of Oklahoma where in the day, whenever I was growing up, it was very common for people of a certain age to have your teeth pulled at that point, because dentures were easier. And so that's the first thing I thought of whenever I read this, is that we've had this problem in the States in some part. Let's not kid ourselves, in Appalachia and some parts of the South, this has been a common thinking for quite some time.
So when you pull the teeth and you go to dentures, see, she should be talking about the other side of it. Although if there's no solution, it's tough. So what happens when they pull the teeth? Then people tend to not eat as well because they can't, like crunchy food, like carrots, like chewing on steak, chewing on good things, solid foods. Is hard when you have dentures that are rocking, they're ill-fitting, and dentures really only fit well for that first year or two. You got to get them remade at some point. You're going to be buying a lot of, denture paste to make it the Fixodent or whatever to make sure it sticks. And if they don't have the money to get the teeth fixed, they're not doing implant retained dentures. So they're using the dentures that go in and out.
Exactly.
So you don't eat as well, which then leads to malnutrition. And it usually ends in either being undernourished because you don't eat a lot, or you're obese because you tend to eat easy foods that are easy to chew, like junk food, like Cheetos or Fritos or whatever, things that dissolve, and candy and mashed potatoes and all that kind of stuff. So your diet actually gets impacted. So you might get rid of the teeth that had the bacteria, but then here comes the heart disease from the bad diet.
And there was another thought that I had when I was reading this, is that not only are you changing the entire demographic in the Netherlands, if this is becoming very common, you're changing how dentists and dental practices operate. All of a sudden, it's not preventive, it's not restorative, it's all prosthodontic. And so I think that that's really something that I'm curious about is the dental market now in the Netherlands really changing to reflect this, or the dentists over there still fighting it, saying, you've got to keep your teeth. It's important. I'm very curious to see that side of things as well.
And I wonder too if they have enough dentists. So if they took dentistry out of the whole national program, I'm assuming most dentists over there are private practice dentists. So, because there's no government, right? Maybe for kids, but if it's all private practice dentists, there's got to be a shortage of it, because obviously the supply is not there, but demand is huge. So maybe that's why it's so unaffordable. And remember, we were just in Hong Kong. Chew on This was over in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is looking to bring in extra dentists from other places because they just don't have enough dentists. And I think worldwide, we are going to reach that. Even America is not going to have enough dentists in the next 10 years. We're going to have a shortage of dentists because of population growth and explosion and all of that. So even though it's good for business, it's not great for the population. So I think that's a very hard line. It's hard to be on either side of it without feeling the other side of it. You know what I mean? I don't want everything to be government regulated. I don't want to go to like the UK system, the British system.
Yep.
Yeah, because they have a lot of problems, but our system's not perfect either. We still have access to care issues.
For sure. So, then can I throw out a third part of this that I'm curious about?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about, in one of your favorite subjects, I know, turkey teeth. And so I'm wondering, does this push then into medical tourism for people to go overseas and maybe to where it's cheaper, much like some folks in the United States head south of the border for what they have done?
Yeah, so for newer listeners of Chew on This, we like to talk about turkey teeth because people all over Europe like to go to Turkey and they get their teeth done. And sometimes it doesn't work out well. No. And there's a term over there where, they call them turkey teeth. And some of the cases we featured are just horrific. Like people who have been left in an irreversible state with lots of pain. So I'm sure Turkey is full of lovely people, but I'm not sure I would advocate a trip there for dental purposes. Just saying.
Just throwing it out there. I understand. But I'm thinking the Netherlands is a lot closer to Turkey than we are here in the United States. So maybe that's another source of income for the Turkish dentist folks.
These are all very good points. And I'm very sad, though, to hear that, because let's be honest, the people that are going to Turkey, they have disposable income. I'm guessing the vast majority of who they're referencing in this article are not flush with tons of cash to go on trips to Turkey.
True.
That is really hard. You're working hard, paycheck to paycheck. And now you're in chronic state of pain. I can't even imagine. You and I have talked previously, like even any little bit of tooth pain is freaking painful.
No argument at all. Absolutely.
I cannot even focus if I have even a little bit of twinge of tooth pain. So, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So hated to start with a bummer there, but I think it's important that we know what's going on outside of our little bubbles sometimes in our practice or even in our city, and knowing that we complain sometimes, but a lot of ways we got it pretty good actually as well.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to you visiting the Netherlands and fixing the whole system.
Oh, I'm ready to come in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just between you and Dana, they'll be fine.
Oh, she's going to be like, do you have Dentrix here? And they're going to be like, no. And it's like, well, there's your problem. And see, that whole
that fixes everything.
It does.
Right.
It's funny how that works.
Everything. Do you read Dr. Bicuspid? No. Well, that's your
problem. There's your problem. See, my work here is done. That I walk off.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, things aren't that much better here in the US, but there's one thing that let's jump in the jet and come on back. So let me go back in my dental career, Kevin, to when I was a very young office manager. And I would send people to collections because they didn't pay their bill. Okay. So it didn't really bring me joy. There's probably one or two where it did bring me joy, only because they were so rotten. But as a whole, I knew that sending somebody to collections was not a good thing. And I knew it was going to hit their credit and all of that. But eventually, and this is what I don't think a lot of newer administrators have experienced, but eventually, person who I send to insurance or to collections would need to buy a house or would need to purchase something big. And they would run their credit report, and here's our office waving at them like, hello, unpaid bill. So we would always get the calls of, I need to pay off my bill because I'm buying a house. And they would never be happy, but guess what? They paid off their bill. Mm-hmm. And it was because we had the power to impact their credit. Okay. So that lessened over time as people got better with collections, and then there were some laws here and there. But we now have, in the dental industry, in the healthcare industry, we now are faced with a situation in which this medical debt, which dental debt is a part of, now does not affect credit scores. So starting March, I think March 30th or March 1st, March is when it starts. Now, anything over $500, which, let's be honest, most of it is $500 or more. And then a lot of people don't even report if it's less than that, right? Because the credit agency is like, I'm not going to bust my butt to collect, this and then just only get paid 30% or whatever. So it's not worth it to them. So there now is a rule by the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I have to always think about that. And what it says now is that medical debt is now not to be used in calculating your credit score. And It can be used if somebody who's looking to lend you money, like the car dealership, if it shows up on a report or you disclose it to them, can they use it in their thought process? Well, that you can't prove that they didn't. So there's that. But as far as running a credit check to see what your credit score is, now that is not allowed to be part of it. So there's an estimate, Kevin, that many people will see as much as a 20-point rise in their credit score once this debt is removed.
Huh.
Now, we're looking at a total of $49 billion that will be just struck.
Wow.
From the ability to run credit. Now, to be fair, you can still send them to small claims. You can still affect credit or affect collections. You can still, as a collection agency, still attempt to collect, and there's still money in that. But when you don't have the ability to report them to the credit agency, there is no burden on them to pay the bill. Like if you know it's not going to hit your credit, Kevin, aren't you just going to tell them to, hey,
sure.
okay, nice talking to you. I'm
Yeah,
out.
no repercussions for me? No. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hospitals are really upset about this because a lot of their big bills, actually everything in a hospital is a big bill. And so now they're going to have to be very careful about their collections, prepayment and all that. But I think it's going to result in, well, we got to raise prices across the board in order to make up for that. So it's really tough. Kevin, have you ever thought about the impact of medical debt on your personal credit score? Have you ever thought of that?
I never have, to be honest with you. No. and,
No.
and,
I'm going
and
to
I
guess you
guess,
pay your bills.
yeah, I was going to say, I guess I'm blessed that I don't have that worry, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I mean, I've gone to the emergency room. I did go to the emergency room one time
Mm-hmm.
between my stints at Dr. Bicuspid whenever I was paying for my own insurance and
Yeah.
learned a hard lesson that it wasn't worth going to the emergency room. Payment was insane. And it was something that I paid off over 2 or 3 months, but it was something that was a hit. Had I not had those resources, absolutely, that would have been horrific.
Well, so if that happened now, and
Yeah,
if you were the type of person to take advantage of this,
sure.
you would just be like, okay, well, this is a nice piece of paper that they just sent me. I'm going to throw it in the trash now.
And I guess, is it a mindset thing almost? I mean, because you could take advantage of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and my worry is, and also from years of working with people on the front lines in the healthcare field, there are people who will know this bill immediately. Like
Yeah,
they will know it.
sure.
And we have an issue that, and some of our listeners may have run into this, but there are people who actually put charges on credit cards and then refute the charges once they walk away with their dental
Oh, yeah.
work. And then it's very hard to fight that. Right. So, and I'm going to guess if the patient didn't have to sign like a treatment plan or informed consent, that patient's going to be like, these people aren't going to be prepared to fight this. And they would know what they're doing. And there are people out there who absolutely know what they're doing as far as getting away with cheating people. So that's what I'm concerned with is you're going to have offices that are taken advantage of. But at the same time, $500 is, I think, a very low threshold. I think it's too low. I would have liked to have seen it like 1,000 or 1,500 or something like that. But it is an epidemic in this country that medical bills do impact people negatively, very much so. And a lot of times innocently, for example, your emergency room visit.
But, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago about that maybe the treatment plan wasn't in place or the documentation wasn't in place. And I know I've heard you preach the importance of documentation for so often. So if a dental practice is doing what they're supposed to be doing in that respect, does that almost protect them from somebody coming in and trying to bamboozle them?
Well, in the case of the credit card chargeback, or perhaps the patient alleges that, improper procedure and they weren't informed and all of that, yes, that would absolutely protect them. But in the case of, I'm not going to pay my bill, no, it would absolutely protect them. It stinks, but let's just take a meta look at it. The reason why we have so much documentation and so much administrative burden is because of this one like goblin of a patient who's going to sue or try to get away with stuff. That's really it. Like it really is defensive documentation, and that's no fun. It's no fun.
Defensive documentation. I kind of like that, actually.
You know what? I was just thinking that needs to be part of my class.
Actually, that does. Seriously, that's a new term I think you just launched here.
Yeah. No, I'm sure people have launched it, but yeah, maybe I'll just take credit. Thank you,
You
Kevin. I'll
should.
take it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Launched on you on this.
You should have been
That's
there
going to,
for it, folks, if you weren't live. Absolutely. So,
I should write an article quickly in Dr. Bicuspid so that I can show that I came up with it. So, yes, yes.
yes. Oh,
The
the gears are all coming
premier
together now. Yes.
dental publication out there. So,
Absolutely. Come with the
oh
jokes.
my goodness. So yeah, so people out there, my takeaway, and of course we'll put lots of links in the show notes, but my takeaway for you all listening is to be aware that if a patient seems a little shady and suddenly knows the consumer laws regarding credit scores, then oh, one other aspect too, when you're doing a credit check for say Care Credit or one of the third-party financing companies, that won't affect. So credit scores, honestly, the only credit score I'm concerned with is the medical one. Have they done this to another office? And that has nothing to do with it anymore. So artificially, I think acceptances might go up. Not artificially, it will, but it's artificially inflated. I think
Yeah.
acceptance of third party financing, the people getting approved, that might go up because 20-point raise in credit score, people be lending.
That's a big thing for a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
Yeah.
looking to purchase that house or whatever that is, that's a big thing for sure.
Do you, and I'm not asking you to reveal it
Of
because
course.
I don't know mine, but do you know your credit score like off the top of your head?
No.
I don't either. I know Norman requests a credit report every year
Yeah.
because that's part of his Normanism. And I know that it's good, but I don't know. And I wonder how many people walk around knowing what their credit score is.
I mean, I'm that guy that I pay all my bills. I don't have any carryover debt except for the house and, a couple of other things. But yeah, I don't feel like I need to know it. Is that weird?
Yeah, but I think, do you check your credit score every year?
I do, actually. Now, we've got through Experian, I think it is. We have the credit monitoring and all that
Oh, the
good stuff.
monitoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you if it's 600 or 800. I'm sure it's, higher.
I hope it's high.
I hope it is.
So people who are listening and they're like, wait a minute, what credit? What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
It is really good financial best practice for you to check your credit score once you get your credit report, because if somebody is utilizing your information for nefarious purposes,
Yes.
you'll find that out. And identity theft is a huge issue in America. So don't think it's not going to happen to you. This happens a lot. And from what I understand, I don't know if you have friends. I have a few friends where this has impacted them. It's never ending. It's almost like they just get hit over and over again. And it's not because they don't take precautions. I think they just get hit over and over again because there's passwords out there. They just missed something in their cleanup. But from what I hear, it is never ending.
And from what I understand, trying to prove that you are you is much tougher than you think it is.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I've heard
really
that too. Yeah. Because think about it. I mean, I keep receipts now. I'm much better now than I used to be with my business receipts. And personally, do you keep all your personal receipts? I kind of, yeah, it's either I do or I don't, or, I might leave it on the counter and Norman takes it. But,
yeah,
if I don't leave it on the counter, he doesn't, it's not, I don't know where it is.
Accounting and math overall are not my strong suits. Why I became a journalist in the first place, honestly. Yeah. So yeah, God bless Norman and people that the numbers are a second language to them. I appreciate them.
Yeah, honestly, thank God, because I've said it before, and I don't care who's listening, IRS, but if it wasn't for Norman, I wouldn't pay you a dime, not one red cent. So
I think everybody out there has been in agreement with that for sure. No doubt about it.
IRS is like, what's her name again?
So Duncan, Teresa, yes.
Teresa spelled with an H and Duncan exactly. Like Unkin. Like
exactly, like the donuts, Hey.
Yeah. Come at me, bro. All right. So, dear listeners, let us know if you're listening to us on YouTube. Let us know if this is something you've already run into. How many shady patients do you have that you think, they're going to suddenly be like, hey, I'm ready to do all the work now, right? But yeah, beware in March of the shady patients in your office. So, and I hope that you guys have a good time in the Netherlands. I know we'll talk before then, but
absolutely,
I'm looking forward to you just cleaning up that country.
You know what? I'm ready to go in there. Holland, Netherlands, whatever you're calling yourself this week, I'm coming for you. So just get ready, okay?
All right, dear listeners, as always, we want to thank you for hanging out with us.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Chew on This. We hope you laughed and learned a little.
Check out the show notes for any links we mentioned, and don't forget to give us a rating on your podcast app. Feel free to drop us a comment on social media or by email if you have any suggestions for future topics.
We'll be back in about 2 weeks. See you then.